Welcome to English Podcasts. Relax and enjoy your listening practice.
A small red point in a telescope image does not look like something that could change our understanding of the early universe. But that is exactly what happened when astronomers studied an unusually bright object detected by the James Webb Space Telescope. The object is called MOM BH, Zent 1, and we are seeing it as it existed only about 660 million years after the Big Bang. At first, it looked almost like an enormous star. It was extremely red, incredibly bright, and surrounded by what appeared to be a dense atmosphere. But there was an obvious problem. No normal star could produce that much energy. The object seems to be roughly 100 billion times more powerful than a typical star could possibly be. When researchers studied its light more carefully, they found something even stranger. Usually, when an object looks very red, astronomers suspect dust is blocking some of its light. Here, however, the evidence pointed toward extremely dense hydrogen instead. The spectrum also showed an unusually strong Balmer break, which means that light suddenly becomes much weaker below certain wavelengths. The best explanation researchers have found is quite remarkable. At the center may be a black hole around 100,000 times the mass of our sun, surrounded by a huge, dense envelope of hydrogen, roughly the size of our solar system. The black hole pulls in matter and releases enormous amounts of energy, while the surrounding gas changes that radiation until the whole object looks strangely similar to a gigantic star. That is why scientists have started calling it a black hole star. What caught my attention, though, is what this could explain about another mystery. Since James Webb began observing the distant universe, it has found many compact objects known as little red dots. They appear surprisingly often in the young universe, and some seem connected to rapidly growing black holes. MOM BH. BH 1 may be an unusually clear example of the same basic structure. And that changes the question in an interesting way. Instead of asking how enormous black holes somehow appeared too early, we may be seeing one of the stages that allowed them to grow so quickly. Inside these thick gas envelopes, black holes could possibly consume matter at extremely high rates, even beyond what astronomers normally expect. Of course, this is still an interpretation rather than a finished answer. The models are simplified, and more observations will be needed. But for me, that uncertainty is part of what makes the discovery interesting. We are looking at light that began its journey more than 13 billion years ago, and inside that tiny red point may be a chapter of cosmic history that we simply did not know existed.